So at this point, I actually would like to introduce Eric Barndollar, who has done a lot of work for the Give This Stage to Eric, has done a lot of work for Arghonoon, and so we are impatiently waiting to see what this instrument is about. Okay, so please welcome Eric Barndollar.
Hi everyone. So Reza already covered the meaning of the word Arghonoon, so I wanted to get into what this instrument is, and we certainly have a lot better sounds and tools than the synthesizers that Reza was using when he first started out in this project. In recent years, there's been a large number of extremely high quality sample libraries, they're called, come out to the market. That what they do is they record almost every single note that an instrument can play at every dynamic level in several articulations, and you can put these together to create enormously realistic performances. And these libraries exist for Western orchestral instruments and also for instruments from around the world. But the problem is they all come and operate only in equal temperament, and obviously you can't use these tools to, as they are, to play authentically in their natural tuning systems. So that's where we developed software to deal with this problem. And the way we do that is with the pitch bend wheel, which if you've played a keyboard before, let's make sure it gets out. It's this, the pitch bend wheel is this little knob on the side of most keyboards, and you can bend the pitch of any note that you play. But the problem that we run into is that you get one pitch bend wheel, and that covers the entire keyboard. So if you play a chord, it's going to bend them all, so you can't control each note individually. So we developed the Arghonoon Tuning Utility, and what it does is it sits between the keyboard and the instrument that you're controlling. You can kind of think of it like a guitar effects pedal would sit between a guitar and the amp. So it modifies the signal that's coming on. So what happens is whenever you play a note, you configure the tuning system that you want to play in. So you play that note, the software looks up the offset and basically can figure out how much the pitch bend wheel needs to be bent, and it sends that pitch bend message for you. And there's a couple other technicalities for how we have to load multiple copies of an instrument and kind of go in a round robin circle because of that problem I mentioned before with the pitch bend wheel applying to the whole keyboard. But in essence, that's what it does. This software can insert those pitch bend messages as you play in real time. And so here's the current screenshot, and we'll switch over to the actual software in a second, the current version. So there's some minor configuration details, but you basically can just specify the sense offset from equal temperament of every note that you want to hear. It's pretty simple to use. We're working this summer to create more tools to help calculate these systems. A lot of tuning systems are specified in frequency ratios, and there's a lot of other ways to calculate it. So the new version that we're going to have ready to go this summer has a lot more tools to help you calculate these scales. But so here's the tuning utility software, and we have loaded a tuning template for the mode of Shure. It's already configured, and what we'll now do is demonstrate one by one the tuning on several. We're going to start with the Santour.
Let me explain to you what the mode of Shure is before we just play this. The mode that we have, and I asked Dr. Salafi actually to improvise on this mode. The one we start from G, okay? And the second note is a microphone higher. Again, it has the first down, the first tetrachord is G, A flat, a microphone higher to C. And then also the performer many times uses this F, and sometimes the lower here tetrachord here from this tetrachord, and then from this tetrachord again this is transposed a fourth up and recreated in above. So what we have done is we have calculated all the microtones here, and essentially the microtones here, this is between 130, this is about 135 cent. This was about 160 cents, okay? This is about a minor 182 cents, it's not really 200 cents. And then that repeats the whole way above. Except this F to G, which is the major whole tone, is 204 cents. So now we're going to just play this. That's the Santur sound. Also in Turkey, which is called Balaban, and also in Azerbaijan, North and South Azerbaijan, the Republic of Azerbaijan, and also a great instrument of the Azeri instrument. And it's a very simple, actually, instrument. It has a beautiful sound, which is a cross between English horn and saxophone. And I'm going to play actually a little bit of this for you too. Setting up for this, we are right now, our instrument is essentially monophonic. We're using different channels to create the polyphony. But next step is monotimbral, I would say. But next step is that we are actually going to have the instrument multi-timbral, so that we can actually create the full orchestra, essentially playing on different channels and just orchestrating. Now, this is a harp, actually, which also I like it very much in this sample. It sounds also like the Persian barabat. It's just, it has a very full sound. You see here, because here this is F, G, A chord is F, G, A flat. When we play together, they're all of G. The next example, I mean, tune the harp. It's not hard to, I mean, it's hard to tune the harp in microtones, but nevertheless you can tune it. But you can't tune the xylophone because you have to cut, the woods. So here's an example of a xylophone. Think of all this, Western, all this Middle Eastern, ensemble playing with xylophone, together. And next example we want to show you is basically trumpet. Trumpet you cannot actually tune, and so it takes, you have to change the whole shape of the trumpet to actually tune it to microtone. Sorry. So trumpet with, we have a lot of examples that we have here, but we are running out of time. And the one thing I want to say is that this is not just for Persian music. This is an international and universal, actually, instrument. It can produce any sound, any instrument, and with any tuning. So essentially, this is where the music of the world comes together. And it has a lot of impacts that we will later on. I hope you will ask questions, and we will actually open it up in the discussion. And also, it has a lot of impacts on Persian music because the new generation, the young generation, love this stuff, and they don't want you just if we stay close and ask them to play Torah and Santur and so on, they might forget the tradition. The most important is to recreate the intervals, which are very, very vital for the music. And so help the young generation actually come in and blend with our tradition. Any tradition that does not want to adjust itself to the change will become a museum. And this is a major, major danger that a lot of tradition, including the Western tradition, classical music is facing. And we'll discuss a little bit more about that. And we have to actually do about something. And we'll discuss that in detail, but I'm going to put that back.
So the last thing we want to demonstrate is to give you kind of an idea of some of the applications. And as Reza mentioned, this is not just for Persian music. So I composed a short little demo. It's about 45 seconds long. It's for flute, erhu, marimbas, and dolak, which is a drum found in North India and Pakistan. And it's all tuned in the Javanese gamelan tuning system of Slendro, which is a pentatonic scale. And I'll play this back. I've got a score that I'll fast forward through on the screen if you want to try to follow along. Something that performers can use, and you can use a keyboard. This is also, since it uses MIDI, it's open to using other MIDI controllers like electronic wind instruments. And it's definitely a tool for composers, and also musicologists or other researchers that want to study these tuning systems and be able to hear them. again, this has applications both for live performances, which we hope to have soon in the future, and recordings like we just demonstrated. And so where we want to go from here with our research is, again, more tools for scale construction, how to take these sequences of interval ratios and can construct these scales. We'd also like to support what we call mode mapping, which is taking any of these different tuning modes and kind of applying it so that you could just play on the white keys, on the diatonic keys of the piano, and play in that mode to really facilitate performance ergonomically, especially for young musicians learning the system. And the last thing we want to kind of get into is to really make this more realistic. I mean, ornamentation plays a huge role in Persian music and certainly other musics around the world. And adding more support for ornamentation is one thing that we need to really take this to the next level. We're going to start experimenting with foot pedals and other systems that can be used to trigger ornamentations. Beyond that, I mean, we always would love to find more sound libraries for expanded compositional possibilities. I mean, the demo that I just had was, I think, pretty interesting. Just that I can use a Chinese string instrument and all those other instruments from around the world. But as more and more instrument libraries come out, I think it's exciting. There's definitely more possibilities for us as composers. The next step for us is also the multi-timbral or multi-instrumental composition support that Reza mentioned. And the last area of research we want to look into is intelligent computer accompaniment, so that somebody can be playing the santur here and have another instrument that improvises along with it, which is, I think, a pretty cool area that we'd like to explore in the future. So I think before we turn it over to Dr. Sagafin, if you'd like to start getting set up now, let's open it up, I think, to questions.
Yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of question and answering. Meanwhile, please feel free to stand up and move your limbs and so on. Have some food and some drinks we'll have. And then while you're sitting up for Dr. Salafi, do you have any questions? Yes?
Yeah, the biggest difference, most obvious difference from the Indian system is that you don't have to have the drone. The Indians say that they can't perform without the drone. The singer had no drone at all.
That's right.
How did it go away in Persian music? Or was it added in Indian music, which chicken and egg?
Well, the Persian music, it's related to Indian music in terms of structure.
Right.
Not in terms of the performance techniques and or the way that the modes are used, because they have different modes. And essentially, these are, my guess is that the two cultures were at one time, when the Indo-Europeans just came, like 5,000 years ago, when they came to the plateau of Iran, and some of them went to the India, they had actually very similar culture and kind of diverged. But we know historically that during the Persian Empire, many Indian musicians came to actually Persia as the court musicians. And in fact, there is in the North Persian province of Mazandaran, there are people who call Godar, and they are Indian in origin. And there's a group of them, and their music and their features are very different. And people say that these people came from India, first, AD, to come to this. Essentially, I think it's the two systems kind of diverge, but internally they are actually related. People think that Persian music is related to Arabic music and Turkish music, which is true. They have some relationship with these two, cultures, musical cultures. But it's much more different. Relation is actually with Indian music. Even that at the surface, we don't actually see that. At the surface, we see that it's very close relation to Arabic and Turkish music. But more in the structure is related to the Indian music. Yes?
Have performers on Western instruments tried to emulate this tuning without your system? On the real instrument, have they tried to just adjust the pitches, and did that work?
That's a good question. I actually, I have left since 2000, last 10 years, when I started, I actually completely left the Western system. So all my music from 2000. By the way, there are my CDs there on sale. If I wanted to get there and get my music, okay? And anything we earn, we'll give it back to the SFCI to go to this project. So, you will see in my string quartets from 2000, I don't use anymore the equal temperament. But I had very difficulties because Western musicians can't play this, microtones. If I want to do this in intervals for Western musicians, which means every note is different, it's impossible to play for Western musician. What I have actually come up with what I call, since we don't need is, I'm going to call a mixed tuning. The mixed tuning is basically equal temperament plus addition of some of these intervals. That means, this B flat will be like equal temperament, this C will be equal temperament, this E flat will be equal temperament, this F would be equal temperament, except this A choron, which means a quarter tone higher than A flat, it will be added, kind of inserted in, and the D choron will be inserted. So I tell the musicians, usually the string player, to get that D choron slightly higher than D flat. And they pick it up, especially the string musicians. Now here's the secret. String musicians never play in equal temperament. They do not, because internally they actually play on perfect fifths. They're all forced to play equal temperament when they are in the orchestra. When they're outside by themselves, they never play. So they pick up this very fast. And so you are right, it's very difficult to produce this. It's easier to produce with string instruments. By mixed tuning, actually, I have done several works that I use the mixed tuning. But still is a problem because it's like, it's like me speaking in English with a Persian accent. You see that? It's not English, it has an accent. So they play Persian music with a Western accent, okay? So that's what it is, okay? To get that exactly, you really either have to retrain the entire system, which is impossible, or create something like that. They could actually play on the MIDI instrument to produce this exactly as it is. With the wind instrument, it's even harder. For example, an oboe, it cannot produce microtones, no matter what. Flute, I wrote a piece for flute, for 3 flutes. They all play microtones. And a very good flute player saw that and says, that's impossible, I can't play. But another flute player, my great colleague in Seattle, Paul Top, he said, oh yeah, I can do that. So he actually played it. And he played all 3 flutes, and we recorded it, and he actually performed it, premiered it. It's different, but still, it's a mixed tuning. That means the microtones have been inserted inside of the equal temperament. With the trumpet, they could actually, there is a place, I want to write a piece for microtonal trumpet. I'm working with Neil Bernstein. He is very interested in this. And I said, Neil, you want me to write a piece for you? Find the Persian trumpet. So